Okay, so now that I'm actually recording this video, because I made the whole video and wasn't recording. Anyway, I wanted to talk about this Twin Star Exorcist anime and how they ruined it. Now, if I would have watched it by itself and not have read the manga, it would have been alright stuff. It would have traditional anime stuff. They get random power ups and stuff like that. But no, I watched the manga and then anime just ruined it. Some of the things that they ruined, these characters get these random power ups, but with no training, and then they can compete on the level of this boss that they built up super strong. Like one example is Mayura, anyway, competing with Kuranashi and pushing him back a little bit after she just got the 12 Guardian power, but in the number one in the manga that never happens. They don't battle each other, so they completely, after the 2 year gap, they did their own thing. I don't know if it's like an American version of stuff like that. So the anime basically had these random power-ups, like they built up Yuto. Number one, they just broke the power system, and then they just have to do these random power-ups. It's bad storytelling. So they get Yuto eventually absorbs the power of 12 Guardians, and then other Basura, including Kuranashi, and then suddenly Kuro gets the power up that he grows into his great great yin powers, and then becomes the Cataclysm King, and he can compete with Yuto and all that stuff. Sure, that's fine, but there's no storytelling, there's no training that they actually trained to get this power. And again, they just completely left Benio to the wayside. And when it comes to the ending is even worse. Standalone, I guess it's cool that they resonated with all the spell power, and that's how they were able to change things. And then Bino Seimei saying he'll come back in another 1,000 years, But then after any of that, they go back to Magano, and then you see a scene where they're fighting Kagari, and then they're using resonance against this low-level Kagari. It just doesn't make sense. There would be no point in them using resonance. They should be strong enough to fight any Kagari. And then how they did my boy Kamui at the end, is like they made him too lame. But in the manga, that is not the case, because in the manga, after the 2 year gap, then they still have more training to do. And then there's a period where they separate too. So Rokuro goes to the Exorcist Society, ends up training. They have a tournament where they fight each other. He starts to fight, get stronger, fight against the 12 Guardians, and there's this growing system in that. And then Benio goes through her own training system. She ends up becoming the Great Yin. So that's a major difference between manga and anime. Benio is supposed to be the Great Yin. She ends up turning into a Kagare, and then Rokuro is supposed to be the Great Yang. I left on volume 21, so I don't know. I left off where they showed that incarnation, and they was going to do something with that, but I need to get back into that. But aside from that, and another thing, I'm pretty sure, I would have to go back and fact check me if you want, leave a comment, that I'm pretty sure in the manga his name is Sakanashi, not Kuranashi, but it might be the same. With him, in the manga, he ends up battling Arima. And that battle was amazing. They just completely ruined that by not having that battle, because Kuranashi goes into his Unchained mode. And when you see Unchained, then you'll understand. That was amazing when I read that. Completely amazing. So he basically, because he's a Kagari, but he started to embody the Yang energy. So then that's why it's called Unchained. So he has this Yang energy, more human, stuff like that. And then Arima, they pretty much battle to the if they die. So Arima, he normally uses Yang energy. He does a Kagari curse and turns into a Kagari as well. So then they basically finish each other off. Amazing battle. And then the battle between Yuto and Rokuro, and Benio too, and Tenma had a battle, Yuto. That final battle, that was great in the manga. So the manga basically had the all the keys to anime. Inspiring, training, get stronger through training. It still has the difference between yin and yang, because the difference between good and evil, and how how humans do evil and then their sins corrupt the world stuff. So it still relates to the real world in terms of that. It's just overall better. The anime just ruined it, made it something that's really dilly, that you just get random powered ups if you believe in yourself, and if you cry, you're suddenly get a power up, and then suddenly the world's great. But it doesn't work like that in real life. You have to train, you have to work hard for that stuff. But anyway, that's my rant.